This is the Progressive Dentist Podcast, where we help dentists like you improve your practice and teach you how to keep more of what you make. Here's your host, Craig Cody.
Hello, it's Craig Cody here with the Progressive Dentist Podcast. I'm lucky today I have Jordon Comstock on as a guest. Jordon is the founder and CEO of BoomCloud. BoomCloud exists to help dental practices create, organize, track, and automate an in-house membership program as a strategy to reduce dependence on dental insurance. Jordon started his career in the dental industry, managing a dental lab over 10 years ago, and soon realized the need for our industry to create membership programs. He studied design, web development, and marketing at the Art Institute of Salt Lake City. Jordon, thank you very much for being with us. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do.
Yeah. So, man, I've been in dentistry for a while now. I need to update on my bio there. I'll be hitting 16 years in dentistry. I started at a really young age.
I was just about to say, were you 10?
Yeah, pretty much. No, I grew up in dentistry. And when I was 16, I started working at my dad's, and my mom is an office manager. So dentistry has always been in my family, and I've grown up in dentistry, right? My dad would also, bring cases home from the lab and work on dentures at home. So I've been exposed to the dental industry for my entire life. But I started managing, my career in dentistry. I started managing my dad's dental lab. Initially, I didn't manage it, but I was the model boy. I poured models for the lab technicians and did all that fun stuff throughout high school. And then when I got older, I studied business and marketing and UI UX, and I started managing the dental lab for my dad. So that's how I got my introduction in dentistry. And I found out that so many of our clients were so sick of dental insurance and what it did in their practice, that I felt like I needed to, figure out how to help practices reduce dependence on dental insurance. So that's kind of how I got started with creating BoomCloud. Is I walked into an office one day, and their office here in Utah, and they had just barely read the book The Automatic Customer by John Warlow, which talks about subscription revenue and membership revenue. And I was completely fascinated by it. And I saw that this practice that I walked into, that they had a membership program they had just launched. And I got really, really curious about what they were doing and, the reason why they were doing it, which was to reduce dependence on PPOs, generate predictable recurring revenue, and have a more loyal patient base. Right. So I was really fascinated with that. And I just kept asking them questions, real curious. And I said, how are you guys managing this? And they're like, well, we're just using this binder with a piece of, binder with paper, taking note of all the patients that are signing up to our membership program. And I'm like, I totally can build something for this to help your practice. So that's how I started with BoomCloud. Just as I was, working with practices at the dental lab, and with my technology experience, studying UI UX, I was able to design BoomCloud, which is a dental membership software for practices to automate all the tasks of creating and growing a membership program.
Interesting way to get into it.
Yeah. Well, they say once you're in dentistry, you'll never leave, right? You can never get out.
Interesting. Very good.
I definitely fall into that category.
So tell me about how a dental firm institutes this whole plan.
Yeah, how they'd start it. So most likely they're gonna, if you're new to a dental membership program, right? It's a different type of payment method where patients pay a monthly or yearly fee to get access to your practice and your practice only, right? There's no network of practices. It's specifically a dental practices program. They pay monthly fee could be $30 a month. A yearly fee could be $300 a year, and they get some free cleanings and exams and then discounts. And then the key to when starting a membership program is to think like Amazon Prime. I don't know, Craig, if you have a Amazon Prime membership.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, sounds like it. So, if a practice thinks about, their membership program, like how Amazon thinks about it, where they're automating all the recurring revenue, whether it's monthly or yearly, automating, yearly renewals with the contracts and everything. And and then tracking everything from the benefits being used and who's using the plan. That's typically how I, suggest practice think about when creating a membership program. But so having the right mindset is the first step of, thinking about a membership program. And then number two is thinking about what type of plan you're going to offer. The biggest mistake I see out there is sometimes practices get a little bit too greedy and they want to charge like $700 a year per patient, which is not, depends in your area. If the cost of living may be higher, I've never seen that price work, but there's some price points that are higher than normal. The average we see out there is $300 a year or around $30 a month. But I would suggest practices getting started, think about what type of benefits they want to offer and what type of, membership fee on a monthly standpoint and on a yearly standpoint that they want to offer. That's what I would suggest. The first thing, if a practice is thinking about starting a membership program, that's the first thing they typically should be thinking about.
And then what is the typical yearly, I guess, re-upping on a subscription like that?
Like the yearly...
like do 90% of the people renew? Is it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So like in our system, we have auto renewal features in the software that auto renew the patients. But yeah, I would say, I'd have to look at that data to be exact, but most likely if a patient signs up on a yearly, they're more likely to renew. Now, another issue that I see out there is practices will sign patients up and they won't auto-renew the patients, and they just wait for that patient to come in and they pay their $300 fee or whatever it is for the year. And there's a 6-7 month, lapse of coverage. So the smartest thing a practice can do is make sure they're automating that renewal and the payments, right? And that's the best thing a practice can do when they create a membership program, because it retains patients to their program and you can scale it, right? There's some compounding growth. If you've got a, good marketing engine, that recurring revenue will compound over time if you auto renew people and make sure that's in the contract. We see so many practices now that are hitting, 1,500 to 2,000 patients that are paying monthly and yearly fees to the practice. So if you got a good system down, that's automating your renewals and it's in your contract, that's probably the best thing that you could do on a growth and scalability standpoint of these programs.
Well, that's a nice little scale. A couple of thousand patients on.
Yeah, because they're generating. I think they're roughly generating like $45,000 a month in recurring revenue. This particular practice I'm thinking about. If a practice can get that stage, which that's our goal here at BoomCloud, that's what we try to help all of our practices reach. It's a different business model for that practice. It's in a good way. They got some stability. Because one of the biggest issues, and I know because I managed a dental lab which followed the financial trends of a dental practice. One of the biggest issues is feast and famine months, where one month may be amazing or one quarter may be busy, and the next quarter you're wondering what happened to all the patients, right?
Yes.
We saw that countless times in dentistry. And this is a problem in any type of business, right? So if you can figure out, how to smooth out demand and generate that predictable recurring revenue, you're going to sleep better at night as a practice owner, because we all have payroll and overhead that we got to cover each month. And if you have some type of predictable recurring revenue for your practice, then that's not a stress. I can't make payroll, or I have to wait to get all these insurance, payments
right.
in to make payroll or to pay any type of bill, right? So that's, in my opinion, that's one of the biggest benefits of on the business side of creating a membership program and growing it to a certain point, that you're gonna get a bunch of predictable recurring revenue from your patient base, which is like the holy grail of business revenue.
Yes, I learned early on in my business career. I remember an attorney telling me it's all about cash flow.
Yeah, it really is.
You can't feed your kids in December. You have to feed them all year round.
Yeah, it is all about cash flow, and no matter what business you're in, whether it's dentistry or a software company like mine, or a law firm, or any business has this. The cash flow, is so important for the business to get a hold of and get it systematized, right? So I like to think of membership programs as a cash flow management tool for the practice as well, because in addition to helping it reduce dependence on PPOs and building a loyal patient base. It's really a beautiful tool in my program, right, for the practice, in my opinion, because you can use it as a marketing tool by attracting more and more uninsured patients. You could use it as a cash flow tool. You can also use it as a revenue expansion tool, because with our data that we found across the nation, member patients spend 2 to 3.5 times more money than non-members. From what we've gathered across the nation. So it can expand your revenue because, well, just think of Amazon Prime. I'm sure, Craig, you go to Amazon Prime or Costco. If you got Costco in your area, you're going, if you got a subscription or a membership to those stores, you're more likely to spend more money at stores. Same thing in dentistry happens to member patients. So you got your marketing, you got your cash flow management, you got your revenue expansion. When you create a membership program, you can reduce dependence on PPOs, which allows you to control your profit margins more, right? And then you got a retention tool for your patients, and then a case acceptance tool. So it covers everything that any business needs, from accounting all the way to closing more deals or case acceptance, right? That's what a membership program can do for a practice. So it's really a cool thing that what we're seeing in the industry and across the nation as this concept grows, and as we've kind of helped pioneer it. It's been pretty cool to see the success of practices out there that reached the level of hundreds to even thousands of patients.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting point. The fact that, the member is going to spend a certain percentage over what he's into the subscription portion for.
Yeah, and that's, we just recently pulled that data maybe a couple months ago, and we've done some videos. We have a free, we call it the Boom Cloud University. So it's a free video course educating practices on the concept of a membership program. And we recorded a whole topic on the value of a membership patient, and discuss, the numbers that we're seeing out there. Because as you know, Craig, that data and numbers never lie. They rarely lie, we should say.
Right.
But it's been pretty interesting to see across the nation what these types of programs are doing to practices in terms of revenue expansion and all that fun stuff there. So 2 to 3.5 times more revenue from patients that are members from our data.
So what does it take for a dental practice to, put together a whole plan and set it up?
Yeah. Okay. So number one, you start with your plan benefits, as I mentioned before. You want to get that down, and you want to get down a good pricing model. You don't want to be too low, right? Because if you're too low, then you're losing money, and we all know what happens when you lose money. And if you scale it, it's not going to work out. You're going to be in the hole every month. So I recommend, when it comes to like figuring out your price, you can do like a profit margin. We have a profit margin calculator on the website that's free. You can list all the benefits that you are going to be implementing into your program, and if you're figuring this out, list all those benefits, and on the side of those benefits, if you write them down on piece of paper or on a Google Doc or whatever, list out what it takes to deliver those services, right? I wouldn't put down like the price, but the cost. How much does it cost you, your practice, from paying your hygienist and all, and your team for supplies and everything like that? How much does it cost to deliver each of those services? Then you get a ballpark number, your break-even number is what I call it. And then from there, you can figure out pricing. So what we figured out, Craig, is that across the nation, on average, $110 a year per patient is what it costs a practice to deliver the services, bare bones, break even, to the patients. So if you can charge above $110 a year, then you're probably gonna make money, right? Depending on your location, obviously, and all that stuff. But that's what we found out there doing our research. So get your pricing down, get the benefits that you're going to be offering down. And then the next thing you're going to do is create what we call a medical retainer agreement, or just a retainer agreement. Some states call it a medical retainer agreement, a dental retainer agreement, just a standard retainer agreement, or a direct primary care agreement. That's the type of agreement that the practice needs to, when the patient signs up for a membership program, they have to have this type of agreement. If not, then it can, raise some red flags when it comes to like insurance, the insurance commissioner. There's a great law out there that is fairly new the past couple of years. It's called DPC, or direct primary care, that allows practices to bypass, insurance regulation. And it's different in every state. Of course, I'm not an attorney, so I can't give legal advice, but that's based off of our research. That's what we found out there, that you need a retainer agreement. Right. And if you do any type of business, whether it's a membership program or something else, it's always good to have some sort of agreement with the people you're doing business with. So after you get a medical retainer agreement done, and if you use BoomCloud, we give you a template and things like that to get you started. Then you need to develop some marketing materials, some brochures, some posters in your practice. Possibly think of doing like a direct mail marketing campaign or some form of external marketing, whether it be direct mail or Facebook ads. And then obviously you can use a system like BoomCloud to make things easier and scalable. We found that practices are able to scale their membership programs to hundreds and even thousands of patients in a year's time if they use our system. But that's kind of how I would approach it. And then the last thing I would do after you get all your marketing stuff and your plans figured out, I would log into like Dentrix or whatever practice management system you're using in your practice and pull a report of your uninsured patient base and see how many patients you have there, and start talking to those patients who are uninsured and get them signed up on your membership program. And then also start communicating to every single patient that comes into your practice about your program, because you never know if that patient is losing their dental coverage, hates their dental coverage, or has a family member that they can refer to you. So it's always good to educate, your patient base, and then make sure you do some type of external marketing to get the word out about your membership program. It's great if you can, spread the word, internally to your patients. But if you really want to get to like the 1,000 patient mark, you got to do some external marketing from what we've seen out there. So those are my tips there.
So does the typical practice need to hire someone to manage this whole process?
Typically, they don't need to hire somebody. I mean, if they're managing it manually, they're gonna hit a point where they can't grow it to a certain size. They probably will hit roughly like 50 patients, and it gets really hard to manage and forgotten. If they're managing it manually, meaning manually running the cards, there's no automation whatsoever. We've seen practices cap out at 50. Surely there's practices out there that can grow it without too much systems, but it's too hard. I would say that you don't need to hire somebody. You can use your internal team members, in the front office to help sell the program. Some practices hire like an external person that goes out to like small businesses, and gets them to sign up onto their membership program, which I think is a fantastic idea. But I don't think every practice needs to do that, when they first launch it. I think it's a fantastic way to grow faster, and you sell to one person and you get, all the employees of a small business. I think that's a fantastic way. That's the only time I've seen practices hire somebody for this. But
using technology is a great way to scale it.
Yeah, and we've found just with our clients that use BoomCloud, and we have a case study on this. Practices that started their membership program manually reached, maybe I think the highest one that we've found, they reached like just under 100, and I think 76 patients or something. But once this particular practice got a system that automated a lot of the tasks, a year later they're at 1,800, a little over 1,800 patients. Right. And if you don't have the right systems in place, and this goes for any type of business with any type of process, you got to have systems. If you don't have a system, you can't really scale it. And I think that's kind of been the problem throughout the past, with practices wanting to do membership programs, but not really able to, because it's just too hard to scale if you're doing it manually. Right. So yeah, we've seen practices go from, they've capped out, manually managing it from, around 100 patients. And then a year later, after they use BoomCloud, they're able to scale it, to 1,800, patients in this particular example. So I think it's very important to use systems. I mean, I think I'm thinking about my company now. I use like a dozen or more software tools to manage my entire company. I think I spend like $2,500 a month in just software tools to help us, put systems in place, for our company. And we've been able to scale quite nicely with the systems we have. Right. So I'm a big time fan of implementing systems to help scale whatever it is, from membership programs to marketing to, whatever the practice may need. It's important to have systems.
Yes. I recently interviewed Frank Curtin, who's a big EOS system person. And we talked about systems and technology. Yeah. And at our firm here, we're big on technology and big on systems. And, you have to use systems. And if you're going to scale things, you need to make sure you're using the right systems.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and quite frankly, most practices that come to us, Craig, want to create a membership program. They're starting at ground zero, right? They have zero patients in these programs. So, and we're having to educate them on, on the importance of the system and the practices that use our system and scale, they grow quite nicely, right? Because really, all the practice needs to do is talk about it, and then they can, have the patient sign up online or wait. If they have an iPad or a computer in the waiting area, the patient can sign up right there and there, and it's that simple. Whereas if a practice signs up a patient, they've got to take all their information down manually. They got to manually run their payment. And then what we've seen, the practices will manually, maybe put on their phone a reminder to run a card. Yeah. Oh, I see all the time. It drives me nuts. Where a practice says, the team member says, well, I just keep all the reminders in my phone, and I just go into the account and run their card on those days. Sometimes I'll need to call them to update their card or to get permission to run their card again. And I'm like, why don't you just systematize it? Right? Put it in the agreement that it's automatically going to come out every month or every year. Capture their credit card information or their ACH bank account information. And automate the thing. Don't quit doing it manually. If you do it manually, it's not going to grow. You're going to cap out at a certain point. And it's harder for the office managers, the team members in the front office, to do some tasks like that because they're so used to not having systems in the dental practice and kind of winging it, if you will, right? From what I've seen out there. So that's my opinion.
So what is the typical implementation time to set this whole process up?
Like with our software?
Yes.
Oh, practices, if they wanted to, they can sign up today and start selling their plan today, right? If they know what benefits and their price structure, it's fairly simple to set up. And in our software walks them through everything, and then we have online training, and then we have our team does check-in calls with our new customers that sign up to Boom Cloud. We check in with them and help them with their marketing materials and make sure that they've set everything up in their software. And then we do a plan creation call. So most likely you can sign up today and start your plan today, but I'd say most practices will sign up and then everything's ready to go within a week. But typically practices, if they're ready, if they have their, plans organized and their pricing there, it's pretty simple with our system. We've automated a lot of the tasks, to get started. So super fast.
Great. Yeah. So, I really appreciate you being on the show today, and sharing with
Craig.
us. Anything else you might want to share with our listeners?
Yeah, I just think recurring revenue is the best business model for any business, but in this case, dentistry. I think it's such a wonderful business model. So if you're really considering this, that's just the business side, generating predictable recurring revenue when you create a membership program, but you're going to form better relationships with your patients. They're going to become more loyal. And then you got to reduce dependence on those PPOs because they're a pain in the butt for practices to manage, right? So if you're really thinking about, doing a membership program, reach out to me, reach out to my team. I'd love to help you. We also have a free book in addition to the Boom Cloud University, which if you go to our site, is there on the menu. You can just click University. But I do have a book. It's about roughly 50 pages. I'm adding new chapters to it all the time. I just added 2 new chapters this past release of the ebook. But the ebook's titled How to Create and Grow a Dental Membership Program. And you can get that at boomcloudapps.com/book. go download it, read it, share it with your team and staff, and get everyone on board with the concept of a membership program and start growing to hundreds to even thousands of patients so that you can, have that recurring revenue, that reduced dependence on PPOs, and that awesome cash flow management. So that's what I would end with there, Craig.
Well, thank you very much. That's all good stuff. And we'll also have that information in the show notes. So Jordon, thank you very much for sharing with us today. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I love being on the show, Craig. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Progressive Dentist Podcast. We would greatly appreciate it if you left us a rating and review of the podcast so we can continue to help you and other dentists. Be sure to go to theprogressivedentist.com to learn more and make sure that you keep more of what you make.